What's up everybody, this is the 2025 Toyota Crown Signia, and in this video I'm going to cover the exterior, the interior, we're going to take it for a drive, as well as talking about the fuel economy you can expect, and the pricing and how it compares to the competition. Huge thanks to Toyota for bringing me out to San Diego here and providing me with the opportunity to review the Crown Signia for you guys today. So about the all-new Crown Signia. So this is the crossover version of the Crown. In Japan it is called the Crown Estate, so technically you could consider it a wagon if you want, whatever you want to consider it as is up to you, but I mean, I think it looks great, and that is pretty undeniable. You have that hammerhead styling up front there. I love these little slender LED accent lights there, with the actual headlights there being in the front bumper and just looking so sleek there. I love the grille. I love this new design language Toyota's been doing on some of their new models. I think it just looks so good and looks really great here in this bronze color as well. The Crown Signia also is bigger than you might be expecting. Even though it's not super tall like most other crossovers it competes with, it is really long. It's on a wheelbase that is the same exact length as the Toyota Highlander 3-row crossover. And as far as the length goes, it's only less than an inch shorter than the Highlander as well. Now it is about 2 inches narrower and 4 inches lower. So, you know, definitely sportier and sleeker than the Highlander, but it just goes to show that, I mean, this thing is basically as long as a Highlander, and it's a 2-row, you know, mid-size crossover. So, I mean, the presence of this thing is really impressive, and I mean, we have like 21-inch wheels that help this stand out as well. Going out to the back there, I love the slender tail lamp that wraps all the way around the back end as well. Looks really cool, really sleek, and it's also interesting, you just have a Crown badge on the back there. It doesn't say Crown Insignia anywhere on the outside here, so it's going to be hard to identify these for those who are out of the loop, but you know, it's just a really nice look, and I love that it's, you know, a street-based crossover, with everything else these days being obsessed with going off-road and being able to be all rugged and rough and ready. You know, I love that this is just attractive, sleek, but gives you that extra size, the extra space that you're looking for in a midsize SUV. And for those that are curious, this does replace the Venza. So this really takes the spot of, you know, the larger midsize 2-row crossover that a lot of people were wanting out of the Venza. That ended up being, you know, pretty close to the RAV4 in its size and its packaging. This is finally something totally fresh, totally new, and much larger. And I think that, you know, for that reason alone, this is going to do really well. The interior in the Crown Signia is a really nice place to be. So the dashboard design and all that we've seen from the Crown Sedan, pretty similar here in this. Of course, the rest of the vehicle is very different with the extra space you get, but you know, a really cool look up front here. I love this new design they're doing here, and it really looks nice here in the Signia as well. But first thing, getting into these seats, I love these seats. They're so soft and comfortable. I like the little bit of like bronze accenting you have here in the stitching, but they're perforated, they're nice and soft. They have a decent amount of bolstering for something like this, and they're just really well done. I love, you know, all the usual adjustments you have, and the great thing is here, even on the XLE trim, since you're starting pretty high up, it's so well equipped. You get heated and cooled seats as standard equipment in every Crown Signia, and so, you know, the cooling actually works pretty well. We've been using it here today, and nice to have that feature for sure. The heating is great. The steering wheel is also heated as standard in all Crown Signias. Super nice you have that as well, and it's a great steering wheel. I love this new Toyota wheel. A nice 9-3 grip, nice little 10 and 2 notches, just a few buttons here on the wheel, but not overwhelming. Really nicely laid out. Have paddle shifters here on the back of the wheel even, and you also have the driver monitoring sensor up here on the steering column. But a really great wheel, and I love that it's heated as standard. Moving on to the gauge cluster here, you will also get standard 12.3-inch digital gauges on all Crown Signias. They all come, again, very well equipped. So you have the usual 12.3-inch cluster here you see in other newer Toyotas, and it's really a nice system. You have, you know, different customizable pods there for both the right and the left, and in the middle you can have it so that you have the pods go away altogether. If you just want to have a little bit more of a non-traditional display there, you can have that as well, and you can customize all the different little things in there. It's just really well done. It's attractive looking. It has different looks whenever you're in the different drive modes, and I love those gauge clusters. It's just really well done. Moving over to the center of the dashboard here, you have the 12.3-inch touchscreen as standard as well, which is great. And it's also hooked up to this JBL 11-speaker stereo. That is not standard. You will go down to a 6-speaker stereo in the XLE, but here in the Limiteds, you get that JBL stereo, and it sounds great and is certainly a nice feature to have. But this screen is really good. It runs Toyota's new infotainment software, which is really so wonderfully simple and straightforward. You know, it's very easy to select radio stations, do navigation, and that's pretty much it. It does have wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, and it defaults to using that for most of those functions. And that's all you want. Is most people just want to have that smartphone connection. You have that here. It's wireless, it's reliable, it works great, and a really well done system. Coming down, you have a nice little row of climate controls. I love that they're physical buttons still, with many other companies throwing that stuff into the screen. I love that we still have physical switches here, and it's all logically arranged. You also have a nice pocket here for your wireless phone charger. That'll help to keep it in place, but I do wish this was rubberized a little more. It's just hard plastic, at least in this one. Now, this is a pre-production one we're looking at here, so you know, maybe some things will get slightly nicer for a full production version. I'm not sure, but you know, just wish that was a little softer, because if you don't have a phone case, like my phone doesn't have a case, you know, you're probably going to get some wear and tear from putting your phone in there. So I just wish it was a little more plush for that. But otherwise, you know, nice that it's actually secure in there, so it will actually charge your phone. You also will see 2 USB-C jacks here, another little bonus cubby, and 2 cup holders. You also have knee padding here in this area, which is great and helps us to have a more premium feel. I mean, the padding goes all the way through the middle here, although unfortunately it's only on the driver's side. The passenger side is stuck with hard plastic where your knees actually come in contact. They do have padding over here, but they're never going to really touch that. And I just wish that this whole little area was also padded, so their knees are just as coddled as the drivers. But outside of that one nitpick, it's really plush for everything else in here. Really nice soft center armrest here. You open it up. It also opens up both on the right side and the left side, so passenger can get into that, which I love. You also have a center mounted volume knob, another passenger minded thing, and I think it's really important to consider the passenger. And a lot of companies, it's always driver centric, this and that, but I love that all of this stuff is passenger friendly, because most people don't drive by themselves all the time. And so anyway, you open up this center armrest though, and you have a little tray in the top here that's nicely felt lined, and then you have this center cubby that's also nice and felt lined. You have another USB jack in there. Now this USB-C jack is the only one that does data. If you want to do wired CarPlay or Android Auto for whatever reason, you can plug it in there, and that's the only place. These ones in the front are only for charging, so just one little thing to note there. But you know, really nice cubby space there. You also will have bottle holders in the doors, which are pretty nice and large, and memory seats over here as well, which is great. Moving on to the back seat here in the Crown Signia. It's an interesting thing, because you would think having a wheelbase as long as a Highlander, you'd have a bunch of rear legroom, especially not having to worry about a third row. And it is a decent amount of legroom. I'm 5'9", me sitting behind myself. I do have several inches of legroom to spare. Not cramped by any means, but by the numbers, it's about 1.5 inches less rear legroom there than a second row in a Highlander. And it's actually, for some reason, somehow, about 1/2 inch less legroom than a Venza, they say, which I have a hard time believing, but that's what the numbers say. So, you know, just keep that in mind, but also don't be as discouraged by those numbers. And again, me being 5'9", plenty of space. You shouldn't have any issues with space here in the back of this vehicle for sure. Also, when you look forward, you'll see they have their own air vents and 2 more USB-C jacks. There's a fold-down center armrest with cup holders in it. And here in the limiteds here, you have this nice big panoramic roof, which is so great to have and gives everyone in the back seat there a really nice view without compromising their headroom, which is also still very good. You also have little bottle holders in the doors there, and it's also standard heated outboard rear seats. So there's 2 outboard seats heated as standard. Again, this is stuff nobody gives you as standard. Even high-end luxury brands make you pay extra for all this stuff. It's amazing that you get all this stuff as standard, and I love it. Then moving on to the cargo space here in the Crown Signia. It is also a nice large space, very wide, pretty long. Again, by the numbers, it actually says you get about 3 cubic feet less space than what you get in a Venza, which also seems hard to believe, but you do have to keep in mind this vehicle is a little lower, and so that sleeker profile means you're going to lose out on some of that stacking capability. But as far as length goes, Toyota says you can actually, if you fold down the second row seats, you have 6.5 feet of length there for, you know, hauling long items if you'd like. So it is a lot of length. It's just not accurately represented in the, you know, spec sheet numbers there. So you should have more space than a Venza, all things considered, you know, especially if you're not stacking stuff to the roof all the time. But let's start up and go for a drive. The Crown Signia just has a Toyota key that says Crown on the back. Again, no Signia branding here, interestingly enough. Nothing on the inside either. There isn't anything, even the floor mats only say Crown. Nothing on this on the Signia here says Signia, which is interesting. But anyway, a really great key. You know, it's just plastic, nothing special, but not too big, and overall really nice. But of course, it is keyless access, keyless entry, push button start here in all Crown Signias. They also have 4-door proximity sensors, so any door you grab onto the grab handle, it'll give you, you know, the unlock feature and the lock feature, which is really nice as well. But anyway, you just leave the key in your pocket, hit the engine start button, and it turns right on. All right, so setting off here in the Crown Signia. So the first thing you notice about the Crown Signia is you have really good visibility. You have a nice thin A-pillar here, great view out of the sides, even though, you know, again, this is a little bit of a lower crossover, you know, still nice tall windows, great view out of the back, and especially whenever you have the camera rearview mirror here on these top trims, you know, you have, of course, perfect visibility out of the back there with no obstructions whatsoever. But the other thing that I've been noticing right off the bat here in the Crown Signia is that it's pretty nice and quiet and smooth. It's a very comfortable vehicle to drive around. I've already been riding her along here with someone else driving for a little bit this morning, and now I'm driving myself. It's just very smooth. It's a great vehicle just to hang out and talk in and just have the serenity of the silence, honestly. They really focused a lot with this TNGA-K platform and the Crown Signia in particular, with lots of sound deadening. You have laminated front side glass. You know, you have a lot of measures that they went to make sure this is a quiet cabin. And it certainly is a step above the average Toyota, and I think is, you know, one of the reasons why, you know, these Crowns are, you know, a little bit more elevated in their positioning compared to the rest of the Toyota lineup. I mean, it is really nice and quiet in here, just very, very, very refined. The only thing that you do hear a decent amount is this motor. So we have this 2.5 liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine. It is an Atkinson cycle that it runs here, and it's only hybrid for the Crown Signias. They all have 240 horsepower, and you have the E motor in the rear there, giving you the all-wheel drive through the road, and that 240 horsepower is measured at the wheels there. So, you know, it feels pretty punchy. Now, you know, these aren't super light vehicles or anything, but these weigh 4,210 pounds, which to me isn't too bad for something that's as luxurious as this is, that has as many features as this has, and is the size that it is. I think that's actually, you know, pretty decent. And, you know, we're going around a lot of corners. We're on these canyon roads outside of San Diego here, and it's really been doing a good job with the handling. It's very flat, very smooth, and I mean, these roads are, you know, pretty well kept, but there's some bumps in the road and stuff, and even with these 21-inch wheels you have here on this one, it is really impressively smooth, especially for something that doesn't have adaptive dampers or anything. It's just passive dampers. I mean, of course, you have a multi-link suspension in the rear and all that, but you know, no fancy suspension stuff going on to make this any softer or smoother, yet you still have really a nice ride quality. And so this is gonna be a really nice vehicle just to, you know, do your normal daily life, daily driving kind of stuff in with comfort, with ease. And I also like that, you know, from behind the wheel here, this doesn't feel as big as a lot of the other mid-sized SUVs that this is competing with. You know, I mean, everything else is usually feeling higher off the ground and more rugged and off-road ready. Obviously, the Crown Signia's mission is not that. It is supposed to just be, you know, something that's street-based, comfortable, doesn't have any hopes of going off-road. But I think that's great. I think there needs to be more of that, because, you know, as much as the rugged thing is fun, and Toyota has that covered, you know, plenty with the rest of their lineup, you know, it's just nice to have something that is focused on a nice, comfortable street drive and not pretending to be something that you don't need it to be. Another thing I really love is the steering. The steering actually feels really nice. It's light enough that it's, you know, not going to be like a workout like a Mazda, for example, with, you know, their new steering racks being really heavy, but it's not overly light either, and it still feels a little sporty. We're not even in the sport mode. We can go up. It does have, you know, a bunch of different drive modes here, so why don't we go ahead and put it up into the sport mode here, and we can see, yeah, now steering gets a little bit heavier, and, you know, it feels, you know, a little sportier, I suppose, because of that extra weight. But honestly, it felt great in normal mode there with the steering. And I believe there's also a custom mode, so you can custom tailor exactly, you know, how you want it to feel. But yeah, overall, just really love the handling here. And this is also a nice long wheelbase, which really helps with your stability and with that handling confidence. One other thing that also helps with the handling is the E all-wheel drive system, which it does have as standard, and that is going to allow you to, you know, have some power going to the rear there, make it a little more dynamic than an average, you know, front-wheel drive kind of vehicle. And you know, it does a really great job putting the power down. Obviously, I'm not able to test it in any kind of bad weather conditions here, but it's gonna be the same as all the other, you know, rear e-motor stuff that you have with other vehicles, you know, in the Toyota lineup, where it's going to give you that propulsion for the low traction kind of situations where you need to have all four wheels turning to help you get going. But outside of that, you know, it is intelligent enough to be able to transfer power to the front and, you know, give you, you know, mostly a front wheel drive kind of experience most of the time for better efficiency. And the efficiency is fantastic. That is one thing that they really are coming out way ahead of basically all the competitors that just do regular hybrids, which isn't very many of them, honestly. And we'll have to wait and see about one of the competitors, which I'll get to more of the competitors in a few minutes here. But you know, as far as fuel economy goes, these are rated at 39 mpg in the city, 37 on the highway, and 38 combined. And so 38 mpg combined in something that is as large and luxurious as this is, as practical as it is, I mean, those are really good numbers. And so if you're someone who wants something large and spacious and comfortable, but you want good fuel economy, this is basically it. Since filming this, Hyundai has revealed the Santa Fe Hybrid, but for the all-wheel drive version, it only does 34 mpg combined, making the Crown Signia the clear winner here still. Now, so far in my drive here this morning, haven't been driving it a ton, but we're averaging 31.4 mpg, so way under that 38 combined number, but I have no doubts that as you continue to burn through the tank of gas, it will probably keep on climbing. And speaking of the tank of gas, it is a big tank. I mean, obviously you have the great efficiency, which helps extend range as well, but it was telling us over 600 miles of range on a full tank of gas. And even now, I mean, we've been driving probably an hour and a half at this point of this car being driven this morning so far, between me and my buddy who was driving as well. And I mean, we're still sitting at 543 miles of range. So gonna be very efficient, really great for road trips if you don't want to stop. But I'm gonna try an acceleration here. So I'm still in the sport mode, and from a stop here, let's see how it does. Nice little e-motor push, and then it gets up and goes pretty nicely. It got a little bit of an extra kick there around 45 or 50, and it felt like it was going even a little bit more. So good amount of punch. I believe 0 to 60 time is going to be around a 7.1 second time. So, you know, nothing mind-blowing or anything, but, you know, a good amount of performance for this type of vehicle. Not going to be the fastest out there in this segment, but, you know, most of the competitors that are faster are going to be a good bit more expensive. And again, I'll get to the competitors in a few minutes. The other thing that's helping with this 240 horsepower propulsion is, you know, not only the gas engine, but also the electric motor setup. And it's running a nickel metal hydride battery, by the way, for this one. So, you know, it gives you that tried and true, you know, hybrid reliability, and, you know, should be very, very durable. As far as the hybrid thing, we haven't been driving in too much city traffic here just yet, but, you know, it's just still going to do the typical Toyota hybrid thing, be very efficient, be able to do that low speed rolling for you. There is no real electric range, of course, with these regular hybrids. Maybe we'll get a plug-in hybrid version someday, we will see. But in the meantime, you know, it's just going to be very, very efficient, and really, especially if you are someone who's doing the around town kind of city driving a lot, that's where you're going to really see excellent efficiency that might even overperform those ratings. And all this power runs through an eCVT transmission. It's just, you know, a variable thing that's always working in the background there. And, you know, it's typical to any other hybrid Toyota, if you've ever experienced this. Very similar, you know, with all these in the past several years at least. And, you know, it's always responsive. It's always right there to, you know, give you the power and the punch when you want it, and then it nicely fades back into the background whenever you don't need it. The other thing to mention too is the tow rating here. So these do tow. The tow rating is 2,700 pounds, so not as high as, you know, some of the other competitors that are, you know, a little more rugged and, you know, more outdoorsy and all that. But, you know, still will be nice if you do want to pull something, you know, pretty light and small behind you there. You certainly can, and it's great that you have that option. The safety tech in the Signia is also really good, just like how, you know, the interior is so fully loaded up with stuff even on the base trim. Same deal here when it comes to the, you know, whole safety tech experience. It gives you everything is standard, even blind spot monitoring, your cross traffic alert, of course adaptive cruise control. All those things are all standard. Everything you expect, lane departure alert, you know, lane keep assist, everything you could possibly think of pretty much is standard. The only thing that isn't standard is the traffic jam assist. The forward collision alert, I believe, is also part of a tech package. The only option package you can get on these is a tech package, and that technology package will give you the rear camera mirror. It also gives you that traffic jam assist. You get the driver monitoring sensor here that, you know, makes sure that you can do that safely. And the traffic jam assist, for anyone who's unfamiliar, is Toyota's way of doing hands-free driving for now. Now, it only does it at speeds up to 25 miles per hour on approved highways, so it's really just if you're in a traffic jam on the highway, it will take over and do the hands-free thing. You still have to be paying attention, but it will be able to do that in a hands-free capacity. Otherwise, though, it's just going to be a hands-on lane keep assist system whenever you are out on the road. But great that they at least offer that there, and again, that is still just an option. But outside of that, everything else is standard safety tech-wise. So it makes it nice and easy and simple just to know that you've got all your bases covered. You can turn off whatever you don't like, leave on what you do, and you're all set. The last thing to mention here is the pricing and how it compares to the competition. So as far as pricing goes, I think they did a pretty good job here with the Crown Signia. So these start for the XLE trim, which again gives you heated and cooled seats as standard, heated steering wheel as standard, heated rear seats as standard, all that stuff. And they start at just under $45,000. And I mean, at that price point, again, it is very, very competitive. And then, a limited is just over $49,000, and this fully loaded one with that tech package added on is just over $51,000. And again, I think it's really well done. Now, there's only like two real competitors that I think kind of undercut it a little bit. The one new hot competitor is the Hyundai Santa Fe. Now, I'm not going to get into all the normal 3-row stuff since, again, this is only 2-row. And the Santa Fe does have a 3rd row as standard, but it still is, smaller than the big mid-size 3-row crossovers. And the Santa Fe typically has always been a competitor to, the mid-size SUV segment here. And so Santa Fe, you can get a fully loaded one. They are just under $50,000 and gives you everything you get here in this limited, and even a couple more things. And again, since I filmed this, Hyundai rolled out the new Santa Fe Hybrid as well, which does 231 horsepower, which is 9 less than the Toyota, but still comes out to just $48,395 fully loaded. You'll possibly pay a bit more for gas though with the Santa Fe, again claiming just 34 mpg combined, so it'll come down to personal preference whether you'd rather save the money up front with the Hyundai or play the long game with the extra fuel savings you get with the Crown Signia. But that one of the things gonna be the strongest competitor, but if you're okay with an XLE here, you still get a really nice vehicle, and if you don't need that 3rd row or the extra space, or if just the Santa Fe is too polarizing for whatever other reason, I think this is sleeker, obviously totally different vibes. The Santa Fe is trying to become this rugged, cool looking thing, whereas this is the sleek kind of cool looking design. And I think obviously they're going to be appealing to different people, but just worth noting, if you just want a lot of space in this segment, the Santa Fe is another one that's worth considering. There's also the Kia Sportage, which also does have a 3rd row, but is again not their big 3-row crossover. And those, for a hybrid version of those do come out pretty fully loaded for about $45,000. Again, might not have everything this has, but it's pretty comparable, I'd say, and is another one that kind of undercuts this just a little. If you're going for one of these limited ones, if you go again for XLE, it's still pretty comparable to that Sportage. And so they're really doing a good job, I think, of matching everyone at that 45 grand price point. And all the other competitors really are either going to be more expensive or they're going to be older and less impressive. You have stuff that might be a little bit cheaper but is very dated, like Subaru Outbacks, which still sell well, but with all these new midsize SUVs coming onto the scene, might not sell quite as well. But Outback is just simply not as competitive in my opinion. There's no hybrid, of course. There's also like the Honda Passport, same deal. That one runs an old V6. It has, it's an older vehicle and all that. Just not very impressive for, pretty similar money as well. It's worth noting. You don't really get much of a discount, and yet you're getting all old stuff, much less tech and all that. So I think that Crown Signia easily wins over those, mainstream competitors. There are some new competitors, coming onto the scene here. Like, for example, there is the Mazda CX-70, which is essentially a CX-90 without the 3rd row. But that is a 2-row, and it's more of, again, a street-based, sleek thing, kind of more of a closer competitor to this. But those are going to be, they're way more expensive. You either have a choice of a inline 6 engine with a turbo, or you have a plug-in hybrid. Both have a lot more power than this does, but you pay for that extra power. And those CX-70s are like between $55,000 and $60,000, so way over even a fully maxed out limited one of these. Again, you have more power, you have a little bit more space. It's a bigger vehicle overall, so there is some stuff stuff they're getting for that extra money. But if you're, you know, price sensitive, or you're just trying to stick to the 50 grand price point or under, you know, this is still going to be the only way to go, because again, all those others are more expensive. Even Jeep Grand Cherokees, a comparable Grand Cherokee, is $55,000. And then if you actually want the hybrid thing with the 4xe, which is a plug-in hybrid, way more expensive once again, and you're talking way more money than one of these as well. So I think they've really positioned themselves nicely here with the Crown Signia of giving you, you know, a lot of luxury, a lot of comfort, a lot of space still, great efficiency, enough power for most people, I think, that are interested in these. And I think it's really a sweet spot here that, again, only really Hyundai and Kia, I think, are going to, you know, be real tough competitors in my mind. And even then, I still think, you know, this is going to have a unique appeal all its own, being a little more, you know, sleeker, a little more street based. And so I really think it's a nice niche they've carved out for themselves here. We will see. You know, sales volumes, they're saying, are not going to be huge. I think they said about 14,000 here for the 2024 year, and then I think it's going up to about 20,000 for next year. So they will ramp it up a little bit, but you don't expect these to be super common. It is going to be, you know, a more exclusive thing for a while here. But whenever they do arrive, they'll start arriving here later this summer, Toyota says, and they're going to be built in Japan as well, by the way. And overall, just, yeah, I really like the Crown Signia. I think it's really cool, even if it is a niche product. I think it's a great niche. I feel like there's actually potential for this one to do really well, because I think I see the appeal for those who don't need the rugged thing. You know, this is going to be really a nice choice. It's so comfortable, so nice to live with, and so practical as well, you know, having that nice long cargo area and all of that. So anyway, that's all of my thoughts here on the Crown Signia. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. Huge thanks to Toyota for providing me with this vehicle to review for you guys today. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.